Hello, boon companions. Rodge here, aka the Wisco Horn Dog, back again for another SAGA Thursday. Your regular source for Saga, the miniatures game goodness. And today we got a special, very special episode. We're taking a look at the Naffata from the Crescent and Cross supplement. So we are delving into the Dogs of War. I think they're swords for hire, perhaps. They have a different kind of description in the Crescent and Cross. But these guys are freaking dudes with flamethrowers, and I'm concerned about playing them. And I wanted to get some more information for my own purposes. So I brought in a new face here on Saga Thursday, but some may recognize him. All right, we're here with the Mr. Nickolai Fenkse, Furious Fenkse. Do you have a proper Saga handle? You just want me to give you one?
Yeah, make one up.
Furious Fenkse. I'm liking that one.
Alliteration is a good go-to.
We'll figure it out. But yeah, you're here to help me out with some Naffata, the Naphtha flamethrower bros, right?
Indeed.
Okay, so you've got some decent experience with these guys, and I have none. And I think reading the rules is kind of one of those things. It's almost a full page, and by the end of it, you forget what you read at the beginning if you haven't played them. So it feels like one of those things where you have to actually play against it before you really fully understand how they work and what you should be doing when you're playing against them. That's my opinion. What do you think of that?
I'm going to agree with most of what you said there. They definitely can pack a surprise. If you've never faced them before, or even just a time or two, they can definitely catch you off guard. That's for certain. Okay, cool. So I'm just going to get into the rules here, and then we'll do just some freeform, I guess, chatting about everything as we go through. So just for the fluff background, I guess they're a specialized type of Turkish infantry that used the deadly and terrifying Naphtha, which is light and volatile flammable liquid housed in primitive bombs. So they're kind of like grenades, Greek fire, that kind of thing. So to recruit these bad boys, it's going to cost you 1 point, and you get 4 Naffata models. So it's kind of like Hearthguard, basically. Now they can only be used in a faction that uses Muslim Saga dice. So that'd be the 3 in Crescent and Cross so far. Yep.
And each
Saracen.
Naffata trooper is worth 1 slaughtering victory point. So I think each Hearthguard is worth 1 slaughtering victory point. So that's pretty much spot on. Yeah, so any of the Muslim factions. So which one do you just play one Muslim faction, or have you tried more than one?
I have been strictly playing Mutadawiya for quite a long time now.
Okay.
And have very little experience with the other 2 factions in the Crescent and Cross book, the Saracen and Moors. I've read their battle boards, and I don't know, I kind of like what I'm doing right now.
Okay, hey Mikey, he likes it. Okay, cool. Do you have an opinion, before we get into anything, on which battle board they might work best with? Well,
again, I've played exclusively Mutadawiya. I haven't played the other, but reading their battle boards, I think they, with fatigue removal that the Mutadawiya have, and a couple of other of their special abilities, I think they can really work well in concert with Naffata.
Okay, cool. Well, we can probably spitball that a little further as we get on here, but okay, this is interesting because during deployment of your warband, the troopers are basically split up, and you include them in other units of your warband. Basically, each warrior unit on foot can be joined up to 2 Naffata troopers. The Hearthguard are too clever to let these guys in, and the levies are too scared. So you can only include them in warriors. And then a unit can only be up to 12 models still. So, okay, so I can see that including these guys, you're going to be down a Saga dice compared to everybody else, because if you normally each point of troopers, a warrior or a Hearthguard unit would give you a Saga dice generated. Depending how you split up your units.
Yep, correct.
So it's kind of limiting you, and you're going to have to use warriors. So what warriors units do you put these in? Do you put them in big ones or small ones?
Well, that again, I mean, it's a tough call. How they actually work by handing out fatigue when they hit. You can use large units to go in for a combat, or you can use them in like a support role in a smaller unit, a unit of like say 4 to 6 warriors, and they can just be used in a support or a flanking type role, just using the Naffata special rules, or you can use them as part of like a shock troop unit, and you can just get them right up in there and be chucking fire everywhere and get that big unit in there, and it can be a lot of fun. And you can use them in many ways.
Well, let's get to the shooting part then, I guess, before we get into that other stuff. Well, we're going to gloss over some stuff. So when he joins the unit, he kind of counts as one of those guys. He doesn't fight. You can remove him as a casualty if you want to, but you don't have to. The way that they shoot is at the end of a movement activation. If nobody else is going to shoot, then basically they can shoot. So you can't really combo it with any other shooting. They're basically doing it on their own. And then you can't do it as a shooting activation. You can only do it as part of a movement activation.
Just like javelins.
Basically like javelins. So
exactly like javelins. After you would activate the unit for a move, at the end of that movement, they can then throw their Naphtha bombs, just like javelins, with I believe the only exception being they have a range of S instead of M.
Correct. Yeah, it's short, so you got to get even closer than you would with javelins. Okay, so when you shoot, each one of these Naffata troopers can generate between 1 and 3 attack dice. So you have the discretion, I guess, on how many bombs you want to throw. So that's cool. And then when you're shooting, the Naffata benefit from a +2 bonus to their attack rolls. And
that's really good.
And ignore any cover the target benefits from. So that's really awesome. I think both of those in concert are pretty powerful. If the targeted unit suffers at least 1 casualty, it will take in addition 2 fatigues, which is awesome if you just do 1 guy. And then 3 fatigues if the target is a mounted unit.
Yeah, that's scary stuff.
Which is pretty freaking badass. So like a warrior unit, you could exhaust them in a single hit.
A mounted warrior unit.
On the downside, for each unmodified 1 rolled by the Naffata troopers while shooting, the unit they are included in must remove one of its models as a casualty. And this
that has been FAQ'd a while back.
Oh, okay.
That now how that mechanic works, like right out of the rule book, they pick 1 to 3 dice. They get +2 to hit, ignore cover. So, like, say you're targeting a warrior unit, their armor 4, you're +2, so you're hitting on 2s, ignoring cover. Mm-hmm. But the downside is any 1s you roll, like you just read, the unit suffers a wound or one of those guys is removed. It's been FAQ'd that you have to remove the Naffata.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, so for every 1 you roll, I mean, that's kind of like the big gamble part when you can decide if you're going to throw 1 or 3 dice. per guy. Because if you got 2 in a unit, that's 6 dice. I mean, odds tell us we're going to see a 1 there, and you're going to lose one of those guys.
Oh, okay. And then the kicker at the end is after you do the shooting with the Naffata, the unit that basically did the shooting, the whole unit takes a fatigue due to the stress and the fear that shooting that those powerful weapons would entail.
Yeah, starting things on fire, I guess it proves as tiring.
Okay, cool. So, okay, let's kind of talk about, I guess, how you use them on the battlefield. So do you go for the 3 full dice? Because it seems like it's good enough that like 1 or 2 dice is probably going to score you a hit, and they're not getting any additional buffs for cover or anything like that. So I guess what's your philosophy on the shots? Do you always do one thing, or do you mix it up on depending on the situation?
It kind of depends on the situation, although I'll add that it's hard to use restraint with these guys. It is. It's really hard because you can throw, if you got 2 guys in a unit, 6 dice. Remembering also that your save from a shooting attack is a 4+ instead of a 5.
Mm-hmm. So you really kind of need to get 2 through.
Yep, you need to get 2 through.
Sort of guarantee 1, but not really with the dice.
Yeah, they're swingy. But a lot of times if I have 2 guys, I typically will be throwing between 4 and 6 dice.
Okay.
And I have a pretty good. I roll 1s all the time, but that's just kind of how it is.
Yeah. Well, if it's kind of tempting because if you roll that 1, you're basically done. You pull the Naffata off, but if you think you're gonna roll the 1 anyways, you might as well roll as many dice as you can. While you can.
Make it happen.
Okay. So what is your kind of target for these? Obviously, hitting cavalry would be pretty awesome, but it seems like it kind of take multiple moves. I don't know. It seems like if you have cav, you're going to want to stay well away from these guys. Do you find that people are kind of aware of that, or do you have to explain it in most of your games how it works?
Again, I guess depending on the scene you're at, or if you're at like a tournament or something like that, or if you're just playing casually. I think if you're playing, you'll always explain them. When you tell people what your list is, and you say, "Oh, I have a point of Naffata," and they're like, "Oh." You can say, "Do you know what those are?" Most people, I think, know what they are.
Okay.
And but it's always worth explaining the rules so no one gets caught by surprise.
Okay. Do you usually put 2 in a unit? Then do you have like 2 units of 2, and those are kind of like your Naffata, like attack dogs?
Yeah, that's typically what I do. With my Mutadawiya, I'll put 2 of them in 2 warrior units, because remember, they can only go in warrior units, and they you're still maxed at 12, so you got to kind of figure out what they're going in. I like to put them in a unit of 8 to 10 warriors, so they're at 10 or 12. And I like to kind of use them as shock troops with my guys, because we can talk about that a little bit later too, but Mutadawiya have some like movement shenanigans, and they also have fatigue removal. So I like to kind of get those 2 big chunks kind of going and kind of dictate where things happen.
Okay, cool. Have you ever tried to take out a warlord with the Naphtha?
No, I haven't.
It seems pretty good.
Super sweet though.
Yeah, just everything being base. The 6+ goes to a 4+.
Yep.
So if you roll in the 6 dice, you're gonna get 3 hits. one's going to be blocked automatically, and then you kind of got like a 50-50 if those other two kind of go in just based purely off the odds. Yeah, really, these guys sound cool. I kind of want to play with them a little bit. So yeah, it seems like it kind of limits your warband a lot. So the Mutawiya are taking infantry warriors, basically.
Yep.
Anyways, do these have to be on foot models? I don't know if I read that anywhere. Oh, each warrior on foot. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, they're only on foot, so they can't join cavalry units. I mean, thematically, the idea, and that's why they hand out the extra fatigue to the mounted units, is that, horses or wild animals are afraid of fire.
Mm-hmm.
The Mutawiya, I like them just because that faction kind of it benefits from a lot of warriors, so you can kind of throw them in there and you're not having all your eggs in one basket. If you're playing a list that has some Hearthguard in it or some Levy, obviously the Naffata can't go in there, so they kind of become targets in the other things. I mean, I guess you can spread it around, but
spread the Naffata magic.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay. So do you? I guess how do you use them? Because I think the biggest bonus isn't really killing guys; it's the slamming them with 2 fatigue.
Yes,
And,
it's definitely the fatigue thing.
So, if I'm reading this, if you have 2 separate units, you could shoot them with 2 separate Naffata units if you had 2 units, and basically put 4 fatigue on them in a single turn.
Yes.
And 6 fatigues on a mounted unit. That would be totally
Yes.
bomb if you could get that through.
Right.
So when you are shooting, do you usually get? You usually shoot the 6 dice. Do you usually get a wound through that you find?
If I'm throwing 6 dice, yes, I'll typically get that one through that I am looking for, but then I'll also get at least a 1. So I'm going to lose one of my guys. I think if you can kind of use them in that alpha strike way, where you're throwing 6 dice, and you get to add the 2 fatigue or 3 to the mounted unit, and if you can just lose 1, so you can hopefully have another turn to use them again.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a good trade-off.
Yeah, I think so too. Yeah, these guys seem like a lot of fun. Do you have any good tales of wanton destruction or abysmal failure to regale us with, Nickolai?
Well, I do have a couple specific tales. If I could talk about some of the tactics I like to use specifically with them. We mentioned earlier that the bombs are thrown like javelins, but instead they have a range of S, which is short. To help mitigate that, because typically, they are found in foot units, so you got a move of M and then a range of S. So that's not a super big threat range.
Yeah, kind of like a 20-inch bubble, maybe. 10-inch in any direction, you can strike without a double move.
Mm-hmm. And if you activate them twice, if you move them and nothing's in range, and you activate them again, they're going to take the fatigue for their second activation and the fatigue for throwing the bombs. Then they're sitting with 2 fatigues. And that's not that ideal of a situation. But the Mutawiya have a couple of abilities that I think really just blend super sweetly with these guys and kind of help mitigate their drawbacks.
Okay. So which abilities are you thinking of then? We can just pop over.
Yep. If you're looking at the Mutawiya deal or the battle board, like Jin's is an ability that lets, and I don't have it in front of me, but it lets you nominate a unit for movement. Instead of M, its movement is L.
Increases it to L. If it's entirely made in open ground,
Yep.
you can move to L. Wow, that's awesome.
So all of a sudden you have that unit, and it, boom, it makes a big L movement, and now it has S to throw, the bomb. So you can reach out and touch people with that.
Yeah, that bubble goes from 20 inches to 32 inches.
Yep.
And that's a big bubble.
That's really, really sweet. Now, part of the drawback of like Jin's is if you don't end that L movement in melee, you take a fatigue.
Oh, okay.
So
yeah, there is that little board there.
That's kind of the getting to fatigue, the double whammy there. But if you look further down the board, they have a couple more abilities that help remove fatigue.
Okay.
So they have Prayer of Vigor, which is just a thing, an ability. It gets rid of a fatigue from a unit.
Decent.
Yep, that's decent. And then they also have, Paradise's Promise, which actually happens in the order phase. But if you know you're going to be getting down and dirty, doing some little spear on shield action.
Oh yeah, you know
what's coming.
You know how
this is. This is what's happening. You can get that going in the orders phase, and every time a unit is destroyed, your units within a certain range can remove fatigue. So it's kind of like, I guess fluff-wise, they're just getting like enraptured by the death around them, and they, strive forward for more slaughter. So that's more fatigue removal again, because with these guys, they have that offensive deal where they can hand out the fatigue, but they always get one for throwing them. And you don't want to be a sitting duck out there, if you don't have fatigue removal, because then you can get countercharged by other things. They're going to take advantage of that fatigue.
Yeah, I guess if you kind of think about it, if you get the wound on them, you're giving them 2 fatigue, but you're taking 1 yourself. So you're only kind of one up by one little pip there, unless you can find some way to get that off your guys before the end of your turn. So yeah, I can see where that particular battle board would come in super handy for running these guys. So yeah, that's cool. Have you ever really spread the love around and had like one each in 4 units just to
I've never done
always
that.
have the threat?
I've never done that, but I think I'm gonna try that soon. Just kind of just spread the little treats, little bit everywhere, coming at you from all angles. I like it.
Yeah, because what I'm kind of thinking here is, when units, you kind of have those Naffata there kind of as a threat, but oftentimes when your warrior units in particular get down to like 2 or 3 guys, like they're almost like out of the game, kind of, because you don't want to risk them, and they can't really kill that much in combat, for most battle boards. But if you had just saved those Naffata and kept them around that entire time, when you're down to that 2 to 3 man unit, then that unit is still kind of scary. It still has a role to play.
Yeah, real nice support unit that's still generating a dice.
And if their ass is blowing out in the wind, it's not as big a deal to lose those final 2 to 3 guys. I mean, you're going to lose a Saga die the next turn, perhaps, but you can always plan that and spread out the fatigue where it's needed. So I kind of think that's how I might try it. I haven't played it, but I think that's a little kernel of an idea I have. The seed's been planted, my man. But okay, have you about those tails, man? What's like the most awesome volley that they've ever had?
Well,
what would you say?
I don't know about awesome like volley of just like taking guys out, but I did. What are those guys? The Prince's Rust or the Drazina.
Okay, yeah, I think I've heard of those. I'm not intimately familiar with the Roost
Yeah,
Princes.
they're like, I might be saying their name wrong or have it completely wrong, but they're like super duper mega awesome Hearthguard cav that like shrug off the first hit like a warlord, and it's like this just awesome unit.
Oh wow, that is awesome.
Yeah, they're super duper cool. And if you can get those Naffata into there and do a couple, if you can get multiple units doing at them, all of a sudden they're exhausted with like 6 fatigue or more. 9 potential fatigue.
Oh yeah.
Coming. You could put 12 fatigue on a unit. On a mounted unit, you could put 12 fatigue on it, with a little bit of luck.
Uh-huh.
But you can really take units out of the game. And in that particular game, you take that big nasty cav unit that does all the damage, and you just put 9 fatigue on it.
Dude, you put 9 fatigue on it?
You can just kind of forget about it.
Oh my gosh. Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, any tales where it didn't quite go your way, or you're counting on them and they just did jack shit?
Oh, definitely.
That probably happens quite often.
There's a lot more of those tales. That book is super thick. Like I said earlier, I like to use them with the like gins, and you move them up the L movement, and then you can get them really closer so they can choose juicy targets. Well, if I'm seeing the red mist and I'm just got that super aggressive game thing going, I'll just, fly my guys up there, throw 6 dice. They take a fatigue for the like gins because they didn't end in melee, and they take a fatigue for throwing the bombs. And both the guys die, and I'm sitting there with 2 fatigues, just hanging in the breeze.
And you spent like
and I can't really
SAGA
activate
dice,
them again. I can't activate them again because they're warriors, and that would be their 3rd fatigue.
So yeah, they can't even get away.
Yeah, just sweet. Here's 10 dudes. just do what you want with them.
Okay, yeah. So
that's happened a lot.
Okay, so they're not the be-all, end-all for sure. How many warrior units do you typically run then?
For the Mutadawiya, they just like a lot of warriors from their battle board, and the fact that you got to sacrifice guys. They can't take levy, so you get warriors or Hearthguard for that faction.
Okay.
Part of their stuff is about sacrificing, and so you just have to have warriors. I like to run 4 units of warriors, or 4 points of warriors rather, a point of Hearthguard, and then you have to pay the point for the Naffata.
Okay. Cool. Well, yeah, thanks for coming on, chatting about these guys. We'll have to do a little Mutadawiya battle board review at some point here. Don't you think? You down for that? At some point in the
thanks
future?
for having me.
Yeah. Okay, cool. And this ends our Saga Thursday tale for this week. Big thanks to Mr. Nickolai Furious Fenkse for helping me out with this. Couldn't have done it without him. We will definitely chat with him at a future date about his Islamic forces and perhaps other things as well. If you have run into the Naffata and lived to tell the tale, go ahead, post it below. Hit me up on Twitter at WhiskahornDog. I'd love to hear your experiences and sort of how they were used on the battlefield, if they're more held in reserve or just kind of run forward, flame some stuff, get it on. I'd be curious to see other people's experiences. So as always, favorite this shit, share with a bud. If you have shared with a buddy, thank you. Just trying to spread that saga word, my friends. As always, subscribe and become a hobby horn dog today.
Saga!